In a wildly anticipated move, Julian Lewis has decided to commit to play at the University of Colorado for 2025. We got to talk about it. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because, well, we do college football here. We do it year round, and when there is big recruiting news, even in the middle of an extraordinary season, we're going to talk about it. For those of you that are living underneath that particular rock, 2025 quarterback Julian Lewis had been committed to USC since August 2023 up until just over a week ago, when news of his decommitment was not necessarily made public by him, but through sourcing. And we followed that sourcing to find out, hey, he is back to considering just two places, the University of Georgia and the University of Colorado. And this is a player for who Indiana had a real shot up until he had canceled a visit to see them play against Michigan, which was a high-profile football game for Indiana, who is 10-0, looking to take on a 9-1 Ohio State to probably try to prove their worth for the college football playoff, if not win that game and get into the Big Ten championship. Meanwhile, the University of Georgia has really dispatched its last big-time opponent for the rest of the season. Georgia Tech will present a challenge. Not going to say they aren't, but UMass will not. They aren't very good, and they fired their head coach just last week in Don Brown. And, of course, Colorado has a huge game against Kansas this weekend at Arrowhead Stadium, where they hope to continue this dream season that they have had, where they control their own destiny. If they win out, they beat Kansas, they beat Oklahoma State, they will play in the Big 12 championship, and we know the Big 12 champion will get into the college football playoff. The only thing that we do not know is where that Big 12 champion will be seated. But we also need to take into account what happened with USC. Well, a number of things happened with USC, not the least of which is they got a commitment from Husan Longstreet, who was at A&M. He flipped that commitment to USC on the very same day that news of Julian Lewis's decommitment hit the airwaves. You can take from that what you will. USC fans believe that they are trading up. Other folks feel like they're just being salty about not having a five-star quarterback in Julian Lewis. And to that end, like, his reclassification has really thrown out of whack his recruiting ranking, right? He's a bona fide five-star, top 10 quarterback in the 2026 class. When he chose to reclassify, there were some that still made that designation. There were some that didn't. For the purposes of this segment here, we'll talk about him being a five-star quarterback because he's got a five-star talent. And he felt like the kind of guy that would plug and play into the system that Lincoln Riley has made famous, his offensive system, which allows for a lot of creativity and a lot of choice for the quarterback, right? Going back to Baker Mayfield and to Kyler Murray and to Jalen Hurts and, of course, to Caleb Williams. Now we're getting to see that he kind of needs a mobile quarterback to make this thing work, all things considered. Even Tanner Mordecai could move. Even Spencer Rattler, before he put on a little bit weight, was built a lot like Julian Lewis. He could move. RPO was a big part of his game, right? Those are the things that you liked. A guy that, when the offensive line just didn't have it, was going to do his Houdini thing back there, do a little bit of magic, and then find somebody open downfield. This season, USC starts out as what I think and many thought was going to be a top 25 program. One of those programs that was pushing for the Big Ten championship, not unlike Indiana. They just turned out to not be very good. They look like they're going to flip this into a bowl-eligible team, but they got games against UCLA, games against Notre Dame that they have to win. And we've seen the quarterback be a problem for Lincoln Riley this season. Miller Moss had waited his turn. He got his opportunity in the Holiday Bowl. He balled out in such a way that Riley alluded to him running off anybody that might want to transfer there, except one guy, in Jaden Mayava, who is redshirt freshman, who played really well at UNLV, led that team to 9 wins, was a great passer and a great rusher, and the kind of mobile quarterback passing threat that Lincoln Riley has turned into Heisman Trophy winners and first-round draft picks, number 1 overall draft picks. He made the decision to start Jaden Mayava against Nebraska just before they went into their bye week. And you could see it was the right move given the offense and given the offensive line at USC. You needed a quarterback that could take care of himself. And was a playmaker. There's one particular fourth down play that Riley drew up, which ended up being a speed option to the weak side of the field, and Mayava made the right play. And there were a couple of opportunities for him to really make plays with his legs, one in which he was able to run away from people when he probably shouldn't have been able to, and he was able to punch in what was the winning score to seal the victory for USC 28-20 against Nebraska in a gotta-have-it football game. You've seen all that go around, and then you see that USC's not very good at the offensive line. They've got some skill at receiver and tight end, and the defense has been pretty good on third down up until they got to Nebraska. But if you're looking at Colorado, you're also going, well, there's a vacancy there. I know that I'm really going to have an opportunity to take over that job immediately, which is not going to be true at a place like Georgia, and is not going to be true at USC ostensibly. Like Malachi Nelson thought that was going to be him. That is why he ends up transferring to Boise State, where he's sitting behind Maddox Madsen, who's balling out, right? He might be the best player in the Mountain West, not named Ashton Jeanty. I'm sure that there are other players that we could throw in there. Ricky White comes to mind as a talent, but from a production standpoint, you've gotten everything you wanted out of Maddox Madsen in that offense, and there's a reason why Malachi Nelson's sitting behind him. I think when we talk about quarterbacks and we talk about five-star players, now more than ever, we're talking about the opportunity to play right away, the name, image, and likeness deal that is on the table, and the competitiveness of the football team. Those three things matter most. And right now, Indiana has a quarterback, right, in Curtis Rourke, and they committed to going to get a transfer quarterback. So he put them off the list, right? I think Georgia has to be there because he's playing ball in Georgia. It's Carrollton's, Carrollton, Georgia. You also know that Carson Beck is going to be gone, but is Gunnar Stockton going to be that guy? Is Jaden Rashada going to be that guy? Jaden Rashada having a skill set that's not dissimilar to the one that Julian Lewis has, to say nothing of Ryan Pugiso, who also is an outstanding quarterback, Puglisi, excuse me. I think it all shapes up to who's behind Shedeur Sanders right now. Ryan Staub, which is not, it's not a dig at Ryan Staub so much as it is to say, it is to say that Julian Lewis is a better quarterback from a talent standpoint, and that offense is obviously quarterback friendly with Shedeur Sanders in it, and I think it would be with Julian. I see no reason as to why. But you're going to go throw for a lot of yards. You're going to throw the ball all over the yard. You're going to have great skill players because Prime can get great skill players. If you're looking at the wide receiving core, you know that Travis Hunter's not going to be there, but Jimmy Horn, and keep going down the line, Draylon Miller. And I've seen enough of their recruiting on the perimeter to know that they can go get that guy. It's the run game that needs some help, right? Both at the running back position and on the offensive line, but it is leaps and bounds better than it was last year. And you'll have that five-star effect. You'll have, Jordan Seaton is over there at left tackle. You'll have Julian Lewis at the quarterback position. Who wouldn't want to play with him? Dallin Hayden in the backfield. Who wouldn't want to play with those guys is what you're going to say. And if you're Prime, you're one of the greatest marketers on the planet Earth, right? You'll be able to get guys and go, look at what we have here. Look at what's in Boulder. It tells its own story. And anytime as a marketer, an advertiser, you can point to a product and say it tells its own story, you don't really have to work as hard to do your job. There's not really that much proselytizing or selling you have to do. The product sells itself, and that's what Colorado has that USC doesn't right now that makes them most attractive. Georgia, the one thing you would be able to say is you're probably going to play for the national championship at one point. You're probably going to win a national championship at one point, because Georgia and Kirby Smart feel a lot like Nick Saban in Alabama, where if you played if you played at Alabama from 2007 to 2020, you were going to win a national championship if you just stayed all 4 years. That's how it feels at Georgia right now. But very excited about this news and being able to talk about it. Let me know what you think of Julian Lewis committing to play at Colorado in the comments below.